if you're comfortable, you can face this. The speaker will be here, so it'll be easier. Yeah. So you can just move on the other side. Yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. So if everyone can please move this side so that I can face you. You can come here, everyone. So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, and we are on chapter 2, which is the summary of the whole Bhagavad Gita, and we'll be covering verse 67 from chapter 2. So if everyone, I'm gonna first of all lead a little kirtan just for 5 minutes, and then we'll start with the verse. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन जमुना तीरा वनचारी जमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी Hare Krishna, everyone. So we will be reading from chapter 2, as I said, verse 67. I'll be basically saying one word and then you can repeat after me and then we'll do the whole shloka together. Indriyanam hi charitam yanmano anuvidhiyate tadasya hariti pragyam vayur navam ivambhasi indriyanam hi charitam yanmano anuvidhiyate tadasya hariti pragyam vayurnavamivambhasi indriyanam hi charitam yanmano anuvidhiyate tadasya hariti pragyam vayurnavamivambhasi. So we'll go word to word. You can repeat after me. Indriyanam, of the senses. He, certainly. Charitam, while roaming. Yat, with which. Manaha, the mind. Anuvidhiyate, becomes constantly engaged. Tat, that. Asya, his. Hariti, takes away. Pragyam, intelligence. Vayuhu, wind. Navam, a boat. Eva, like. Ambhasi, on the water. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Please repeat after me. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Purport. Unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. As mentioned in the life of Maharaj Ambrish, all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind. Om Agyanti Mandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So welcome everyone to today's evening Bhagavad Gita class. My name is Aman and I was just told this morning it was not scheduled for me to give this class, so I have prepared whatever I could. So this is a very important verse basically, and I request everyone to please engage, because sometimes what happens that everyone is a bit shy and it's only me who's doing the who's doing all the talking part. It's just you guys are grown up, and even if you are not, just talk from your experience. If I'm asking something, just try to be more engaging, because it encourages me as well, and it will be good for you as well. So this purport is very short, but gives a very important understanding of of the principle of self-control and self-discipline. So if we go through the translation again, it says that Krishna is basically telling here to Arjuna that if a boat is in the water, and strong storm comes, and it will be swept away by the wind basically. So we have got 5 senses. we have actually got 6 senses. I'll come on that. But even if we focuses on the gratification of just one sense, we will be swept away by the force of material energy or Maya. So how many senses have we got? 6. Can anyone name them just one by one? Touch, yeah. Sight. Smell, yeah. Mind, yeah. Listening. And taste. So that's 6. So 5 senses which we have learnt in school, which is basically gross senses. But in Bhagavad Gita and in Vedic scriptures, we have got actually 6 senses, and one of them is mind, which is the most powerful sense. If mind wouldn't work, and basically if mind wouldn't order us, then we can't actually utilize our sense for basically for anything. So mind is the biggest sense. And the most important, one of the most important senses. So, now coming back to the part of self-control and self-discipline, we'll just take example of the animals from the scriptures, that how certain species in the material world, even if they are most prominent, they have only got mostly. They function on one of their senses, and still they get enamored by it and basically swept away by the Maya. For example, if you have seen a moth, especially in India, what happens that if it's on the days of Diwali, when there are lightnings and ghee lamps everywhere or whatever lamps, then these moths they are attracted by the sight of the fire, and they basically just want to, they are just attracted by it, and then they end up getting burnt by that and they die. So one of the example is of the moth, that just by seeing, he's basically destroying himself because he's attracted by the force of this one of the senses, which is sight. Then the other one is, if like how hunters capture deer, so they play a certain music or certain amount of basically a certain instrument by which the deer comes and it got captured by the hunter. So that's the example of ear. In circuses we see that elephants, basically elephant is such a big animal that it can rip apart like tens of trees in the forest. But what they do, they actually captured the elephant by using a female elephant, so that he got sexually attracted by the female elephant, and basically and then they capture the elephant. So this is the example of touch. And the example of smell is given in the scripture of a bee. If you guys know, there are certain flesh-eating plants which are basically carnivorous plants, if you know about Rafflesia. So when a bee or an insect is attracted by the smell of that plant, then they end up sitting on basically on the core stem of that plant. And at that time, the leaves, they just closed, and the plant engulfed the animal. So this is one of the example of the smell. And taste is just so prominent. You call a dog or a fish, you throw some crumbs, bread crumbs, and you can capture the fish. Now these are the example of just one senses. Like each animal has got one senses by which they are being captured, or by Maya or by humans. As humans, we have got all these senses which are very prominent, and all our senses are very prominent. And it is said that Krishna is mentioning here that even if we focus on one of these senses, we will be even one of these senses can basically destroy us. So sometimes what happens, and one of the important sense, as I mentioned, is mind. So sometimes what happens that people come to the temple and they ask that my mind is not really attracted by Krishna. What should I do? My children don't listen to me, and the mind is just wandering all over the place, and it's just not. We want to worship, but we don't get time. We want to get more spiritual in life, but we don't get enough time, and the mind is wandering all over the places. So, what Srila Prabhupada says and the Acharya says is that the mind itself would not, the mind would create different reasons and excuses to not be engaged in the service of Krishna. That's the nature of mind. That's the nature of Maya. That's why we are in this material world. It will give us different excuses to not be engaged in the service of Krishna. So we have to force our mind, we have to force the senses to be engaged in Krishna. Now someone can come up and turn and say that, I don't want to fake it. Sometimes people say that, I don't want to fake it, Prabhuji. If it doesn't come from the heart, then what's the use of it? But everything in life takes effort. If you see from your childhood, the society, your parents, teachers, I was basically giving this workshop on relationships and mental health in a school. And I was just trying to, whenever I would ask the children that, what should be your focus in life? If relationship should not be the priority, what should be your priority? And the two answers which I was getting, that the first focus should be myself and the second is money. And I was like, these children, and I was reflecting on my life that, we are being brainwashed from our society so much that we actually don't know the purpose of life. From the very beginning, when you go to school, the first thing which is being, which is being fed in our mind is that to earn money, get famous, get rich, and and then you ask them what after that, they would not have answer. Would getting rich, getting money would give you the peace of mind? It would not. And most of you can hopefully understand it as we get as we grow up, we understand that actually if we reflect, if you sit in the temple, when you come in the temple and you reflect that what's the point of life, then actually we should understand that money, it's good, we have to survive, and fame and wealth and good health, everything is good. But if it's not directed towards the service of Krishna, and if it's only about me and myself, then actually it doesn't make us happy. So in the material world, we put so much efforts to gain that happiness and that wealth and money, and the whole system is been, if you see, the whole system has been curated like this. From teachers, from parents, from society, even from friends, we are getting this instruction, we are being fed in our mind that, get good studies and be a doctor or engineer or whatever, earn good money. That's the purpose of life, which is being told to us. And we put so much efforts in that one purpose. Imagine your whole school life, which is like 18, first 18 years of your life, then your college life, then your university, then after that, basically, you get married, and then the whole life you are earning money. Why? Obviously, to rear your children and to survive. But what after that? And we put so much efforts in it. Now no one comes to me and no one goes to the teacher or goes to the principal and say that, oh, my mind is not attracted to education, my mind is not attracted to earning money. What should I do? You have to we put efforts. We listen to them and we put efforts. Not just 1 year, not just 2 years. Our whole life we put efforts for earning money, to get material opulence and, to gratify our senses. But when it comes to the spiritual part, we always ask this question, this mind is not getting attracted, Prabhuji. Can I do it, maybe when I get old or older, then that would be the time that I would worship Krishna, or then maybe the time that I could, I can do some spirituality. But everything needs practice. If you are thinking that when you will be old, and then suddenly one day you would wake up and you would be attracted to Krishna and spirituality, that's never gonna happen. That's a myth. That's a fact. That's never gonna happen. Because just giving an example, I heard it somewhere that even if there's an 80-year-old man, and his whole life he has engaged in sense gratification, sensual activities. Now at the age of 80, you might think, or we might think that at the age of 80, he might not be getting that sexual desire. But even at the age of 80, the mind will make him, the mind will make him getting attracted to the opposite sex or whatever sex. But the sexual desire would remain there, it's just the body which can't work. But the mind would. Why? Because the whole life, the person has practiced it. In the similar way, if we practice Hare Krishna Mahamantra and spirituality from the beginning of, if not the beginning, just a major part of our life, through that practice in the old age, we can actually perfect this human life. If it's not from, if you don't give substantial amount of time to practice Krishna consciousness or any spiritual path, then it's never gonna happen. Then one day we wake up and everything will be changed. It's never gonna happen. So everything needs practice. Now Krishna is telling us here that even one of the senses can basically destroy us, especially in the spiritual path. Forget about spiritual path. I used to work in addictions. Forget about spiritual path for now. Just in the material way, the mind is so strong, which is one of the senses, and we see that it destroys lives every day. Rape cases are happening in thousands of numbers every day. Right now, I think there's in every second there is one rape happening somewhere. So even right now when we are talking, someone is getting raped somewhere. So why is this happening? Because of mind. Because the mind is not in control. Addictions in this part of the world, you see, the children, they start vaping around the age of 8 or 9. And then as they go on further in their life, by the age of 12 or 13, how the whole process starts, just take one sip. Just one sip of any, that's how it starts. Just take one sip, just one puff, and, the mind gets attracted, and then the person, basically the life is ruined. So, not just these senses these senses are not just disruptive for spiritual paths or spiritual progress, but also for material progress. And we see that every day, thousands, tens and thousands of people's life are being destroyed by these senses. But how to control? The question is that how to control your mind. So basically there are three things. We have got two type of bodies. Now we learn in schools that we have only got this one body, but actually there are two bodies. One is a gross body, which is basically this physical body. As you mentioned, seeing, smelling, touching, hearing. These all are physical functions of the body. These are the gross. This is the gross body, and this is not the real. It is real body, but it's temporary. But with that, there is a subtle body as well, and that subtle body is mind, intelligence, and false ego. So we learn a little bit about mind, intelligence, and false ego. So I'll give you an example. Just imagine that there is a charioteer who is controlling the 5 horses by the reins, by the strings. So it's actually mentioned in the scriptures that charioteer is supposed to be intelligence. And the reins by which he's controlling is mind, and the 5 horses in front of him is senses. So actually intelligence is supposed to control the mind, and mind is supposed to control the senses. If everyone can come here so that I can see you, that would be more interactive. So intelligence, mind, and senses. Now what happens in today's world, everything is, basically mixed up. Mind is controlling intelligence. So if you have got a choice, and if you're making a wrong choice, let's say, for example, if you have got diabetes and gulab jamuns are in front of you, and the intelligence is telling you that you don't have to eat this gulab jamun. No, you have got diabetes, it's not good for your health, don't eat. Now that's the function of the intelligence, to tell the mind to not eat. right? So then the mind will be like, okay, no, you'll try to calm down and get away from, you'll try to go for a healthy option. And then the senses, which is mouth or tongue, you have to control it. So that's how it works. Intelligence is supposed to control the mind, because whenever we make a wrong choice, we know deep inside that we are making a wrong choice. That is Paramatma. So basically that's intelligence. Intelligence knows not all the time, but most of the time the intelligence try to govern our mind, that this is wrong, don't do this. So mind is supposed to be governed by intelligence. But what happens nowadays, coming back to the same example, gulab jamun is in front of you and intelligence is telling don't eat, but the mind is like, it's okay, it's just one day, it's just the last day of the month, let me eat. And then the senses are engaged, and then you start eating, and you finish the whole box, and by the end of the day you realize that, oh my god, what did I do? So why this happened? Because mind tried to control intelligence. Intelligence was telling the mind to not do certain act, but mind goes over and did he wanted to do. So in Kali Yuga, these things are very prominent. And one of the major result of intelligence being not in control and mind is getting all, basically going all over the places, basically if you see mental health disorders, anxiety disorders, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. I don't want to trigger anything here, but these are the things when mind, when mind is not able to, when mind is trying to control intelligence, then these things happen. For example, one of the things which we use, if you guys know, most of you would know, is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. It's basically restructuring the pattern of thoughts. And then what are you thinking? You got a trigger, and then what thought came in, how did you feel, what behavior you took, and after you basically rate these things in a sheet of paper, and at the end of it you rethink again that what I could have done. So basically this is like a small example of CBT. Now here Krishna is telling, now these are the things which we, when you get into a disorder, when someone gets like a problem and then he goes to the therapist and then he does it. But here, if we would be educated from the very beginning of our life, that how the function of mind, intelligence, ego, false ego, and senses work, then we actually wouldn't get to that point where we have to, when we are actually in such a serious mental health condition. And these problems are very prominent nowadays. Everyone is going through some anxiety disorder. Panic attacks, anxiety disorders, OCD has become so common. If you guys know what is obsessive compulsive disorder, the mind is going haywire, and he has to follow a ritual to clean hands at least like 100 times. And then if someone would disturb him in between, then he would have to start it again until the 100th time is finished. Why is this happening? Because the mind is not in control of intelligence. So that's why practice is important. And how would we control our mind? How would we control our mind and intelligence? By practicing. And Krishna and Srila Prabhupada is actually, if you see the purport, is actually telling us that by following the example of Ambarish Maharaj, it is possible. Now, who is Ambarish Maharaj? I'll come to that story. But the process of practicing, even before practicing, is important that we gain the knowledge of what to practice. But be honest with me, how many of us know that what to practice? How would we know what to practice? We don't know what to practice. Why? Because we have focused our mind, our whole life, gaining the knowledge of the material world, but when it came to the spiritual world, we all have lagged somewhere. So unless we know what to practice, we can't practice it. And Bhagavad Gita is basically the manual of life. When you get some new gadget in your home, you get a manual with it, how to operate that gadget. Now we have got this body, and this body is in rent. This body is gonna go. now or tomorrow it's gonna go. Now certain people, we were just in this Sangha today, and we were just discussing that one of my friend is atheist, and he, whenever the concept of death comes, he doesn't want to think about it. It ruins his whole day. But that is gonna come. Just by ignoring it, the fact doesn't change that the death is gonna come. So so basically this body is in, we have rented this body from our previous karmas. According to our previous karmas, we have got this particular body. Now how to use this body, this manual is given to us, which is Bhagavad Gita. But how many of us have actually opened the Bhagavad Gita and tried to, because this is such a, if you see this verse, this is so practical. Even one sense. For example, let's say, just an example. You just have to think about something. You just only have to think about something to basically take that action. For example, if you're thinking about, as I said, gulab jamun, you just have to think about it, and then mind will be, all day, okay, I have to eat something sweet, and then you'll end up going to the shop, buying it, eating it, and then at the end of the day regretting it. So you just have to think about it, and it will happen. And the series of these verses have been given by Krishna in this chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, that how the fall down happens. It happens, first step is thinking, contemplating. So how would we know what to practice? The first step is to get the spiritual knowledge. And where do we get it from? From Bhagavad Gita, from scriptures. And if we won't get that knowledge, then we will be swept away by the wind of material nature, which is Maya, as it's mentioned in this purport, that as a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water. Now, what is that? What is on the water means ocean. Now, this life is like an ocean, not just this life, the billions and millions and zillions of births which we have taken before, and the zillions and birth we will be taking in the future. It's like a vast ocean, and we are stuck here. We are stuck in this boat. And every time, and this wind can be compared to the forces of the senses, which actually wouldn't let us come out. Now, one of the example, very famous example, what's the you know about that boat? It's a very famous ship, which was actually drowned, 1912. Which the name of it? Titanic. Now, Titanic was, at that time, it was built with $7.2 million, and the engineers and they were like 101% sure that nothing's gonna happen with this cruise. But on its first voyage, just in 4 days, Titanic was broken, and basically it sank. And the captain of the crew, he was actually told beforehand. From the 2 days he was getting the warning of the weather, and there is a big iceberg coming. But they ignored it. Why? Because there are dangers. But they ignored the dangers. They were like, no, Titanic cannot sink. No matter what happened, Titanic cannot sink. But it did. And actually, even after the collision with the iceberg, they actually ignored that. They could have fixed it. But they only started noticing it and getting, it got more serious when one of the major five compartments starting filling with water, and the nose of the ship was almost dipped. Then they got serious about it. So why that happens? Because they ignored the danger. And that's what we are doing. We are stuck in this ocean of material world, and we are ignoring the dangers. Basically our eyes are closed, and we are trying to tell ourselves, we are trying to ignore the fact that death is coming. It's approaching. Every second death is approaching us. Every year when you celebrate your birthday, it's nothing to celebrate. It's basically 1 year near to death. So every year we are getting old and we are getting near to death. And what are we doing? We are ignoring the dangers. If you come in the temple at least in the temple we should try to come to practice, as the whole concept, the whole class is about practicing. At least when we come to the temple we should try to practice. We should try to gain knowledge. When you are coming, you are taking darshan, you are going away, basically it will give you some sukriti, but it's not really fruitful. It's not going to change your material life into spiritual life. So you coming here, sitting here and listening to this class, it's the starting point of gaining this spiritual knowledge. Now what to practice? That will come when you will come more often, when you start doing some seva here. You know, when you start reading these books, when you'll get a book, when you'll read it to your children and teach them. That's how you can slowly start practicing them. But we need to caution ourselves, at least when we come in the temple, that what are we doing with our lives? Because if you just sit with yourself and try to self-reflect, just get into a corner and try to self-reflect, try to ask Krishna, what have I done in this life? I don't know what answer you would get, but it's important to ask yourself this question. And whatever external efforts we are putting to be happy, are they really making us happy? Because happiness is an internal state. Happiness comes from within. You can get an iPhone today, it will get old tomorrow, and then you need another version, and then you need another version, and then you need another version. But is it actually making you happy? That's the question. The external continuous efforts to reach to the point of satisfaction only leads to frustration. But how much are we acknowledging them? That's the question. So, and then, it's basically like a vicious circle that we are going from one birth to another birth, one product to another product, one gadget to another gadget, one car to another car. But is the happiness real? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. And in the previous purport, Prabhupada is mentioning that the peaceful condition in Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested condition. Self-manifested means that you don't have to put external efforts to be happy. It's the natural state of the living being to be Krishna conscious. So when you come to the temple, at least initially what happens, then you're coming to the temple, you look at Krishna, you listen the kirtan, you get yourself absorbed in the kirtan, it makes you happy. Now it doesn't take money to chant the holy name of Krishna. It doesn't take that much of extra effort, but it is making you happy. The happiness is coming from within. But this happiness, if you want to prolong this happiness and make it permanent, we need to practice it. And the practicing is that you come to the temple not just for having darshan, but sitting in the class, listening to the class, try to think about it, reflect about it, go your home, and not just hearing from one ear, and what happens that people hear from one ear and it goes from the other ear, no application, it doesn't go to the heart. So it's important that we listen from both ears so that we can practically apply at least just one thing, just one takeaway from this class you can apply in your life. Just by, let's see, just get a Bhagavad Gita and start reading it. Just one shloka a day. Maybe you just chant one round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra in a day. Why? Because practicing is important. Without practicing it, we are not going to achieve it. So the example which I gave initially, to get material benefit, to get material opulence, like I came from India here to get my studies done, and then wanted to get a job, then visa, and there's no one after another. There's no point where I was satisfied, and I put a lot of efforts in it. Basically, our whole life, the efforts of our whole life is to reach to that point of satisfaction. I will tell you a very little story, very real. So I was coming from India to London recently, and we had a stay basically over in Oman, and I got this very nice Uncle Ji from Punjab, and he had a passport, Belgium passport basically. And I asked him that where is he from, and he told me that he's from London, and he's staying here from last 40 years. And I was like, Uncle Ji, if you have been staying in UK from last 40 years, why you don't have a British passport? And he's 63, 64 years old, and he told me, because Belgium suits me better. So I waited 40 years so that one day I will go to Belgium and I can settle down there. And then I reflected and I was like, what kind of, we are actually living in illusion, because imagine 40 years, his youth, his prime, his children, his grandchildren, they all happened in UK. But still he is, anticipating that one day, just to get the bodily comfort, he did not change his passport all these 40 years. Why? Because just in the, just by this, basically, just because he wanted to go to Belgium one day, because he has this thought that one day I will go, one day I'll be retired. But 40 years of his life he did not. I mean, that's just such a major chunk of his life. But he waited. I mean, Prabhupada said Parikshit Maharaj had 7 days to listen Srimad Bhagavatam. We don't even know we have 7 seconds. But we make these whole plans all our life. One day we'll be happy, one day we'll be retired, one day we'll be this, one day we'll be that, we're gonna save money, this and that. But I mean, if you ask yourself, can anyone in the world give you this guarantee that you are gonna live by the age of 70 years old, 80 years old, 90 years old, or 100 years old? So we have to start practicing from now. I was seeing in Instagram, sorry, I use Instagram, I'm not gonna lie. So, I'm not a sadhu. So I was seeing in Instagram that there is this 23-year-old girl who was dancing in one of his friends' wedding. She got a heart attack, like silent heart attack, and she died. Literally on the spot, she died. And she had no pre-diagnosed conditions, literally no conditions. And she died. 23-year-old girl. 11-year-old children are getting heart attacks, sleeplessness, all these problems. So how can you guarantee, or I guarantee, that I will be living till 70 years old? So we have to start practicing now. This excuse of growing old one day and starting practicing spirituality is not gonna work. And Krishna is, this example is given that if you want to offer something to Krishna, you offer them fresh, right? So when you are young, when you had the opportunity to actually practice properly, to preach to the people, then we did not. Now in the old age, when we have nothing to do, when the body has given up, when we want to do certain things, but we can't because body cannot. We still want to do it, but body cannot. Body wouldn't allow. Now we go to Krishna. Krishna is not fool. Krishna is Swayam Bhagwan Swayam. He knows everything. Past, present and future. Every second he knows us. And he wants to come back to him. So if you would delay, Krishna would also delay. And if you take one step to Krishna, Krishna takes 10 steps toward us. But if you take one step away from Krishna, Krishna can also do the same. So how can we practice it? We come to the temple and we practice it. You do some seva at least. Temple is not just a place of visiting and taking darshan, taking some snacks, having some photographs and going back. That's not what temple is. You can go to London Bridge for that. But temple is a place when we come, we listen to the Kirtan, we attend at least one class. We take at least 1 point from here. And we try to practically apply it in our life and give it to our children. That's what will make, every time you come to the temple, you teach one thing to your children, your kids. That's what I have learned, I'm going to teach you this. So that when they grow up, they wouldn't end up feeling like, okay, we were going there every day, every Sunday, nothing happened. And they became atheist. So that's how we can apply it, so practical. Prabhupada said that Krishna consciousness is complex for complex people, it's simple for simple people. Right? So all these 5 senses, coming back to the point, all these 5 senses, how can we practice it? We can follow the example of Ambrish Maharaj. Now I'm going to tell you this sweet story. This is from Bhagavatam and it's real. It's not mythology, it's history. We need to change our vocabulary. It's history. And Ambrish Maharaj was actually a very pious king. And he was the son of a king named Nabhag. And he was actually, his father was actually very pious. He did something, there was a whole story about it. But Ambrish Maharaj, what he used to do, he was so pious, he actually ruled the whole world, all the 7 continents. And he was taking care of his kingdom along with worshipping Krishna in a way that he would only use his eyes to look at Krishna. He would only use his mind to remember Krishna. He would only use his sense of smell to basically smell Krishna's, the flowers which are offered to Krishna. He will use his hands to clean Krishna's temple. He will use his legs to come to go to holy places and dham. So in this way he was engaging all his senses in Krishna's service. Now practically we can't do that. That's not possible. But at least when we are coming to the temple we can do that just for 1 hour. We can actually try to keep ourselves away from our phones, all those calls, all those chitter and chatter of mind. And when we are coming, we actually focusing on the holy name. Looking at Krishna, because when you are actually coming in front of Krishna, it's not like you come and you go. Krishna is also looking at you. So we look at you, we start from the lotus feet of Krishna. What is he wearing today? Because this is Krishna directly, Supreme God, Personality of Godhead. There is no difference between this Krishna and Krishna in the spiritual world. They are alike. This is alive. This is alive. Sakshat Vigraha. Krishna comes in the form of his Vigraha form to bless his devotees. So this is the direct Radha Gokulan and the Sakshat Krishna. So if you look at him, you are looking at Krishna in the Golok Vrindavan. So we look at Krishna properly, not just in a ritualistic way. We smell, the flowers which are offered to Krishna's lotus feet. That's how we practice it slowly. And that's how we can attain the spiritual perfection. Srila Prabhupada mentioned, as I was telling earlier, that Krishna consciousness is simple for simple people and it's complex for complex people. And even for all those complex questions, Prabhupada has written many books. Hundreds of books Prabhupada has written, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita. All the questions you have got, we have got the answers. So it's about practicing. It's about questioning yourself. It's about gaining the spiritual knowledge. So this boat, as I was telling you, as this is mentioned in this purport, I was on the story of Titanic. So we are also actually stuck in this boat of material world, of this life. This body is a boat. And according to the sense, according to our focus on that particular sense, we will get the next body also. For example, if you buy a Bhagavad Gita, you see in the initial pages of Bhagavad Gita, there are photographs given. So the example is given, if someone is very fond of eating fish, now this is the attraction or focus on one sense, which is tongue, which is basically eating or taste. So if someone is very much fond of eating fish, Krishna would listen to him and he would give him a next birth of a duck so that he can have as many as fishes he wants. So this focusing on one sense is just doesn't ruin our material life, just doesn't ruin our spiritual life, but it can actually give us the next birth according to the attachment you have with that particular sense. So it actually decides the body we are getting in the next birth. So imagine that, it's so big. So we are stuck in this boat. And the example, and as it's mentioned here, strong wind sweeps away a boat. And this ocean, this Sansar Davanal, which is the forest fire, sometimes it's forest fire, sometimes it's compared to the vast ocean. This vast ocean of birth and death, we are stuck within this body. And these senses are coming like a strong, force of wind. And it's attract us, maybe sometime with the tongue, sometime with the money, sometime with sexual desire, and according to that we get next birth. Then in the next birth you might be attracted to some other sense, and then according to that you get next birth, and then this cycle goes on and on and on. But if you want to come out of it, as I mentioned earlier, the whole class was on that thing. If you want to come out of this ocean, if you want to reach to the shore, if you want to come out of this cycle of birth and death, because there is only suffering in this material world. We think that the happiness is coming, and when happiness comes we think that okay, it's all fine now, it's gonna remain same. But then next moment you would be upset about something. Anxiety would come. Right? So this material world is, if you can focus, if you can face me, Prabhuji. Because we hear, when we come to the temple, it says that we just don't take darshan from the eyes, we take the darshan from the ears. Actual darshan is from the ears. Even if we go to Dham, they say that just going there and taking the darshan of the deity wouldn't really make a big difference. We need to listen about the Dham. We need to listen about the glories of that place. By listening through the ears, we can take actual darshan. So, so where was I? I was talking about this boat we are in, the happiness and the upset part. So, so the happiness is coming, and then we think that everything is fine, but then the next moment you are anxious about something. So it says that the devotees of the Lord, they just don't tolerate sadness in their life, they tolerate happiness also. Because happiness is also a delusion. The external happiness, which we are basically the happiness which we are getting from buying all these gadgets, all these material things, you know, it's actually a delusion. It's actually illusion. Because this happiness is very temporary. So for a devotee, he just doesn't tolerate sadness or anxiety. He also tolerates happiness, because he knows that this happiness will also go away. And he doesn't wait for happiness. Why? Because he knows that as the sufferings are coming on its own, the happiness will come on its own as well, and it will go away. So Krishna also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita that a pandita samdarshina. He mentioned that an intelligent person is neutral in both the condition. In happiness and distress, he's same. Why? Because both are illusion. They are there, but they both are temporary. What is not temporary, what is permanent, is the spiritual knowledge, is the holy name of Krishna. And as I mentioned before, this happiness is self-manifested. Once you get this happiness, once you get this rasa, you don't need anything else. There are saints in Vrindavan, in the holy dhams, we see they have nothing. We are hankering and running after all these material opulences, we are not happy. But you see, they are sitting there, just one piece of cloth, with no food whatsoever, with no shelter, and they are the happiest. They are the happiest. Because that happiness is coming from within. Now we may not become that because we have responsibilities. But we can actually. Like I gave the example of Maharaj Ambrish. He was a king, not just of one state, he was the king of the whole world. But still he was the happiest. There's the story, we have got 5 minutes actually. So Ambrish Maharaj was doing Ekadashi Vrat. I'll just give because it's a mention of Ambrish Maharaj, so I'll give this and then story, and then I'll finish the class. Ambrish Maharaj was actually doing Ekadashi Vrat once, and he was a pure devotee of Krishna. And after Ekadashi is actually original way, Ekadashi is for 3 days. It starts from the 10th day, Dashmi, and then Ekadashi, and then Dwadashi. And on the day of Dwadashi, we break the fast in the morning around 5 to 11 o'clock. In between, there's a whole thing. Basically, it's an astrological calculation that one has to break the fast of Ekadashi in the morning of Dwadashi. So, Ambrish Maharaj was about to break his fast on the day of Dwadashi. And he used to do Nirjala Ekadashis, not drinking even water. So, and there were because he was the king, there was so much of opulence. So there was so many preparations were made for him and to basically break the fast of Ekadashi. And around that time, there's a very famous Rishi, if you know. He's famous for being angry and giving curses. You know what's the name of that Rishi? Durvasha Rishi. So around that time, Durvasha Rishi came to him. And he appeared basically. And Durvasha Rishi told him that you don't break the fast now. I'm gonna go and have a shower and I'll come back. But there's a time frame in which we have to break the fast of Dwadashi. And if you won't do that, then you don't get the whole benefit of doing Ekadashi. So the time was slipping away, and Durvasha Muni was taking a lot of time to take his shower. And at that time, Maharaj Ambrish approached some sages, because when you are in Dharm Sankat means that when you don't know what to do, then we take the shelter of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So he went to some sages and he asked them, what should I do? It's the timing of breaking the fast is, it's going away, but Durvasha Muni is not coming. So the sages told him that you take a sip of water, because water is not it's not grain, but you will break your fast in that way. So he took a sip of water and he just stood at that place waiting for Durvasha Rishi. Now when Durvasha Rishi came, he got very angry. He got so angry. Basically, the poor guy just had a sip of water, but he got so angry that he created a demoness from his hair strand. And the demoness started, attacking Maharaj Amrish. But Maharaj Amrish's conviction in the Lord was so strong that he was like, I'm gonna just stand here. He didn't even move a step from where he was standing. And around that time, Krishna's chakra came out of his hand, and he killed the demon, and he started attacking Durvasha Muni. And Durvasha Muni actually ran all the 14 planets. He went to Vishivaloka, he went to Brahmaloka to be saved from Vishnu's chakra, Sudarshan chakra. And at that time, Bhagwan Shiv told Maharaj Amrish that go to Vishnu and ask for forgiveness. And he went to Krishna, asked for forgiveness, and Krishna said that I can't do it. You have to go to my devotee and ask for forgiveness. And when he went to Maharaj Amrish, he basically fell down on his feet, and Maharaj Amrish said that all the austerity and bhakti I have done in my life, if that's true, I sacrifice it. Please leave Maharaj Amrish. And that's how, please leave Durvasha Muni. And that's how Durvasha Muni was saved. So that was the story of Maharaj Amrish, who was mentioned in this verse. But I hope you might have got something from this class. If you have, please take just one teaching and try to apply in your life. Now we will be having Aarti, Gaura Aarti. So I request everyone to stand up. Hare Krishna, if you keep your mats away just on the, around the exit, that would be nice.
You want to sing? Help me get the bar up. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So thank you everyone for coming to Bhaktivedanta Mana this Sunday. So we're going to now sing the Gaura Aarti song. The lead singer will sing the first line, and we encourage everyone's participation by responding to the lead singer. So Aman Puruhe will be singing, and if we could all chant together, that would be very nice for the glorification of their lordships.
Kiba Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Arati ko shobha Jaya Gaura Chande Arati ko shobha Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande Arati ko shobha Janavi tatavane jag man lobha Janavi tatavane jag man lobha Dakhine tai chan वामे गदाधार निकटे